The Cold War was a time of tension and rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. It lasted for many years after World War II. It all started with different ideas about how to run the world. The US believed in democracy and capitalism, while the Soviet Union preferred communism. After World War II, the leaders of the US, the Soviet Union, and Great Britain met to discuss the future of Europe. These meetings, held in Yalta and Potsdam, aimed to rebuild war-torn Europe. However, disagreements arose about how to govern the liberated nations. The Soviet Union, led by Joseph Stalin, wanted to establish communist governments in Eastern Europe, creating a buffer zone for its security. The US, under President Truman, opposed this expansionist approach. They saw it as a threat to democracy and freedom. This difference in viewpoints, combined with growing mistrust, laid the foundation for the Cold War. The inability to find common ground in these initial meetings cast a long shadow over international relations. The inability to bridge the ideological divide led to the division of Europe. This division became a physical manifestation with the emergence of the Iron Curtain. It symbolized the separation between the capitalist West and the communist East. The ideological differences between the US and the Soviet Union went beyond political systems. The US championed individual liberty, free markets, and democratic values. They sought to contain the spread of communism, viewing it as a threat to their way of life. On the other hand, the Soviet Union promoted socialist ideals, centralized control, and state-run economies. They aimed to spread their influence and ideology, seeing capitalism as an exploitative system. This clash of ideologies fueled propaganda wars, espionage, and a constant arms race. Both sides developed increasingly powerful weapons, including nuclear bombs. The fear of a nuclear war, a conflict with unimaginable consequences, loomed over the world. The distrust between the two superpowers ran deep. Every action taken by one side was perceived as a threat or a provocation by the other. This climate of suspicion shaped global politics for decades. The world watched nervously as the two giants engaged in a dangerous game of chess. Instead of direct confrontation, the US and the Soviet Union engaged in proxy wars. These were conflicts fought in third countries where each superpower supported different sides. These proxy wars became battlegrounds for their ideological struggle. The Korean War, from 1950 to 1953, exemplified this dynamic. The Communist North, backed by the Soviet Union and China, invaded the US-supported South. The war resulted in a stalemate and a divided Korea. It also deepened the animosity between the superpowers. The Vietnam War from 1954 to 1975 was another devastating conflict. The Communist North Vietnam, supported by the Soviet Union, fought against the US-backed South Vietnam. The war resulted in a communist victory and had a profound impact on American society. The Soviet-Afghan War, from 1979 to 1989, saw the Soviet Union intervening in a civil war in Afghanistan. The US provided support to the Afghan resistance fighters, the Mujahideen. This war further strained relations between the superpowers. Section 4. Reaching for the Stars. The Space Race. The Cold War rivalry extended beyond Earth's atmosphere with the space race. Both the US and the Soviet Union poured resources into space exploration. They saw it as a demonstration of technological superiority. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite to orbit Earth. This achievement shocked the US and sparked a wave of anxiety and determination to catch up. The US responded by establishing NASA and investing heavily in its space program. The race culminated in 1969 when the US successfully landed astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the Moon. This historic event marked a significant victory for the US in the Cold War competition. While the space race was driven by rivalry, it also led to remarkable advancements in science and technology. It inspired generations and expanded humanity's understanding of the universe. Section 5. The Thaw and the End. From Brinkmanship to Détente. In the 1960s, after the Cuban Missile Crisis brought the world to the brink of nuclear war, a period of détente emerged. Détente was a relaxation of tensions between the US and the Soviet Union. It was marked by arms control agreements, summit meetings, and a slight thawing of relations. However, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979 strained relations once again. The US responded with sanctions and increased military spending, leading to a new phase of the Cold War. The 1980s witnessed a renewed arms race and heightened tensions. However, the arrival of Mikhail Gorbachev as the leader of the Soviet Union in 1985 brought about significant changes. Gorbachev introduced reforms like perestroika, or restructuring, and glasnost, or openness, which aimed to revitalize the Soviet system. These reforms, however, unintentionally weakened the Soviet Union's control over its satellite states. In 1989, the Berlin Wall, a potent symbol of the Iron Curtain, fell. This event, along with peaceful revolutions in Eastern Europe, marked the beginning of the end for the Soviet Union. Finally, in 1991, the Soviet Union itself dissolved, marking the end of the Cold War. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief as the threat of nuclear annihilation receded.